Hello, guys. This is Professor Gonzalez again. Welcome to another week of class. Guys, we are officially at our halfway point. This is week 4. Congratulations for all the work that you have done. I am incredibly proud of you. And I want to start the week with a quick little check-in and housekeeping. So I do understand how hard it can be to have such a compacted course. You are in this 8-week course where you're expected to read from 3 different books and articles and write a paper or something. There's something due every week. Um, and I know this can be hard. I'll be very vulnerable with you guys and share a little bit about me. I am working full-time in community mental health clinics. I am a full-time clinician. I'm also teaching this course, and I am a PhD candidate. And so I'm also taking 2 classes in my PhD program. Um, that's not all. I have a family. I am a wife and a mother. Um, and we are active members in our church, and we're not leading in a ministry, we are involved in many ministries just because it's what our family needs, right? The marriage ministry, the youth ministry, the children's ministry. And so I understand what it's like to be busy, and I understand what it's like to have a lot on your plate. So please know that I am here for you, and I understand. I want to remind you to please be mindful of your self-care. Make sure that you're making time to have fun. Make sure that you're resting, and make sure that you're living out your personal values. So the reason why I put fun and rest, and I didn't put it on there by it, but I alluded to it. One of my other values is family. And so I know that if I'm making time to connect with my family, if I'm making time to have fun here and there, and if I'm getting adequate rest, I can function at the best of my capacity, and I can do all the things that God has called me to do in this season. So please be mindful of what it is that God gave you. What are your tools? How do you make yourself the healthiest you can be in this season as you're taking on so much responsibility? I want to take a few minutes to answer some of the questions that come up from students when they're doing genograms. One of them is, if there is something that I'm noticing as I'm writing my genogram, as I did my rough draft, or something that I've already known about, something I'm already aware of, that's really difficult for me to talk about, that's really painful for me, is something that I haven't figured out and I'm still kind of working through, can I withhold that from you? And the answer is yes. Yes, 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 absolutely yes, every time yes, all the time yes. Um, I don't mean to cause you any harm. That is not the purpose of this class. You are important to me. And we are not always in the processing season. This may not be the season where you share this. This may not be the season where you feel fully healed and fully empowered, and that's okay. That's okay. So if there's something about your family that you're choosing not to disclose because it's just too painful, that's okay. You can withhold that information. Keep it to yourself. Maybe it's a story for another time. So please know that I do care about you more than I care about this assignment. This is just an assignment. I care about you. You're my priority. And the next question that comes up a lot, and it's been coming up a lot, is what if I don't really know my family? And I want to say to that, don't worry, I didn't either. So we migrated from Mexico, and I am considered second generation, I think, but I was still born in Mexico. And so I migrated when I was 3 years old, and I migrated along with my parents and my siblings. And half of my siblings were born here in the US, and the other half were born in Mexico. Um, I did not grow up with cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, or any really extended family. It was just our family of origin. And there are cutoffs in my family, right? My parents left their country, and there's some family members that they don't have relationship with, and so then I don't either. Um, And so if you want to just focus on your immediate family or family of origin, that's okay. Um, but if you're saying, I don't really know my family, but there's really no unsafe reason why I wouldn't connect with my family, I want to encourage you to be willing to do like the detective work. It might be a very fun activity for you. So don't shy away from the hard work if there's no like immediate or perceived danger. If you know that it's gonna be just more work than expected and that's why you don't want to do it, I want to challenge you not to shy away from this assignment. Move forward, lean into that discomfort a little and enjoy it. Also, genograms are rough. When I did my genogram in this class, many, many years ago, not that many years ago, but a few years ago, um, it was a very difficult assignment for me to do, and I wasn't ready. And what do I mean with difficult? I mean with emotionally and physically difficult it was for me to get through this assignment. I remember doing the assignment in class and being on this like very healthy, conscious diet and just trying my best to be super healthy. And I probably had like 3 meals in one sitting that evening when I got home, and I didn't even notice. But that large quantity of food kind of brought some comfort in a very, maladaptive way. Um, I was trying to seek comfort. And so I know genograms are rough. I know. Give yourself grace as you're working through this assignment. And thank you for all the work that you're already doing, you already have done. Um, keep reading your How We Love book. I know you're not being like super duper quizzed and tested in this class, but you're gonna need that book. You're gonna need that knowledge as you're writing further assignments. And I don't think you can just cram this book. I mean, you can, right? You guys are probably super, high functioning adults, and you can cram anything if you want to do, especially in this culture. But it's not recommended. It's for your learning purposes. It wouldn't be a great idea, and you're not going to get the best out of this class. Jumping right in. So we're going to be talking about principle 3, turning towards each other. And this we are finding in our Gottman book, The 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work. And so strong marriages are built on everyday moments, not grand gestures. Okay? No grand gesture is going to overcome the progress or the damage that you've done, that I have done, that we have done in the small moments, right? So we should not take everyday interactions for granted. They are a great opportunity for us to build more strength and romance than any vacation or any expensive gifts. And when we do go on vacations or we do buy expensive gifts, it is really the everyday moments that make these grand gestures amazing and over the top experiences for us. And so, according to the Gottmans, couples bid for each other's attentions um, in action, humor, or support every day, all day long. We are seeking this attention and this validation from each other through eye contact or body language, facial expressions. We're seeking each other. Um, the partners that respond to each other's bids, that do not respond to each other's bids are turning away from their partners. And those who do are turning towards their partners. This is a way that we can show up for our partners in very small and big ways. I will give you a personal example of what this looks like in our home. So my husband and I have uh, so many children. Just kidding, we don't have that many children, but we do have like a nice little tribe. We have 4 children in our home, right? Um, and I don't think this was ever like communicated. It was at some point, but years after we noticed that we did it, um, we had somehow subconsciously agreed that when one person walks into the house, right? And the family's already in the home. This person first acknowledges the spouse, right? So, for example, if my husband is already here with the kids and I'm having a later day, when I come home, I first acknowledge my husband and then acknowledge my children, and vice versa. If I'm home and I'm with the children and I'm cooking, doing something, and my husband walks into the door, he first acknowledges me before he acknowledges the children. And this could be like 2 seconds, right? I'm not saying that we just like have this great conversation and we ignore our children by any means, but there is a connection of our eyesight. There is a smile, a grin in our face, a wink, um, or sometimes just a run straight forward for like an embrace or a kiss, or a hug, right? And it is a very small way in which we are actually saying, I'm so glad to be home. I'm so glad to be home with you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I love you. I missed you. I'm happy to be here. So many things are communicated when we're doing that. And there have been instances where I will greet the children first because the children are right at the door. and and Miguel will say, "Hey, what about me?" He's making it very obvious that, like, hello, I need this. Another way that we could, if we turn this on its head and we talk about it in a negative way, it could be, for example, me being already home with the children and him coming home and taking that second to glance at me and try to connect and finding, um, content in my affect, maybe some negative vibes going his way. I'm communicating maybe some anger, some frustration, and in that way, I've kind of moved away from him. I'm not moving towards him, right? I'm rejecting his bid for connection. I'm saying, not today, buddy, not today. And I've done it before because I'm not perfect, right? None of us are perfect. And we're going to keep making these kind of mistakes. But as long as we're aware, self-conscious, and we're purposely trying to move in the right direction, I know that God gives us grace to continue to do the best of our ability with this. Turning towards each other, it helps us build trust in our marriage and it helps build our emotional bank. And the Gottmans talk about that in this chapter in the book. But what we have found is that in struggling marriages, couples don't even pay attention. They don't acknowledge each other. They actually ignore each other when they're trying to bid for their attention. And this is considered to be worse than hostility. Why? Because if you're hostile towards me, you're still engaging with me, not in the best way possible, not in a very effective or healthy way, but I'm still present in that interaction. I'm still being seen. When you completely ignore me, it's like my existence is not important. So even if you don't want to turn towards each other, like in a very positive way, do not ignore each other. It is even worse than rejecting a bid for attention. Continuing this principle, what can get in the way of couples turning towards each other? We can completely miss the bid due to the negative delivery. Negative delivery can affect the way that we understand the bid because instead of trying to hear the words, we hear the way it was said. We see your body language, right? And I'm no longer responding to what you need from me. Now I'm like picking up on all you're trying to communicate, right? So one of the ways that we can stay on track is to try to focus on what's being communicated with words, and not with the delivery, because sometimes the delivery can be affected by whether if we are tired or we're hungry, we're stressed out, we have a lot on our mind. So if my partner has a negative delivery, what I may want to do is take a breath, I may want to compose myself a little bit, and then ask, I want to respond to you in a positive way right now. So please tell me, what is it that you need from me? Usually if I do that, my husband can tell that I'm like self-soothing. My husband can tell that I'm trying to calm myself down, and it does change his tone. He can see that I'm really trying to be present. Also, don't say it in a way that doesn't sound like you. I don't know if you guys are if you guys watch The Office. I am an Office fan. But if you are, you're probably going to understand. There's a scene where Jim and Pam go to counseling, and then they teach them this way to communicate, and they're trying to communicate this way in public while they're at work. And one of their coworkers tells them, like, oh my God, like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, are you on drugs? Like, because he understood, like, this doesn't even sound like you guys. This is so weird. So, don't be weird. Use your own words, make it relatable, be yourself as you're communicating, but do make an emphasis to communicate that, like, listen, I'm having a hard time trying to hear what you're trying to tell me. So, um, say it to me a little bit slowly and give me some grace while I figure out how I can help you. Um, Being distracted is also something that came up a lot in the Gottman's research. People were distracted by digital devices. And this really does affect the intimacy in relationships, in the romance in life, right? Because our relationships require that we be fully present, that we be fully aware. Partners complain that their spouses are always distracted and unavailable, even when physically there. So you can be sitting right next to your partner all day long and not have intimacy, right? You're not looking at each other, you're not touching each other, you're not conversating. Each one of you is doing something different on their phone. So you really were a world away, even though you're sitting right next to each other. Um, and this comes up with not just your partner, but your family as well. So I'm um I will say that my most effective kind of fasting has to be social media fasting. I really feel like when I do that, the Lord speaks to me. He's able to speak onto my life, pour onto my life when I remove myself from the social media world. And I have noticed how sometimes my family will shut down when I'm on social media, and they can tell. My children can tell that I'm not paying that much attention. My children can tell that I'm not, like, I'm nodding and I'm agreeing, but I'm not really listening. And my family will challenge me on that. And I appreciate it. And I have given them permission to do so because they are important to me. They matter to me. And so, even though we live in a broken world and I'm not a perfect parent, I'm going to keep on striving and keep on trying. And so, our digital devices really have affected us. For me, it's social media, but for you, it can be different things. We use it for everything now. We use it to work. We have our work emails in our cell phones. We use it for distraction. We use it to learn, to educate ourselves. Sometimes I'm just reading an article, or I'm responding to an email. Nonetheless, still distracted from the present moment, the people that matter to us the most. And this is affecting interpersonal relationships all around the home. So we find again some great questionnaires that help us on turning towards each other. And here are the titles and the page numbers. Well, you will find them in your Gottman book. Um, again, it's a way to connect. It's a way to learn from each other, from you and your partner, and just these are not always daunting. They're not like super ridiculous like questions that are like heavy to hold. No, some of them are like super lighthearted and fun. So please take a look at them. Try them on yourself with your partner, and then share them with your friends. Okay, another advice that the governments give us for turning towards our partners in is having stress reducing conversations. And they are advising that we reunite with our partners um, for about 20 to 30 minutes a day when we come home from work. Maybe both partners work outside the home, maybe not. But either way, give yourself time to talk to each other and de-stress. So this is not a time to discuss any conflicts that you have between each other. This is not the time to try to hash out your attachment styles, your communication styles, your family dynamics. Instead, this is really an opportunity for you to support each other. Um, it's an opportunity for you to talk about your victories in parenting, your victories in work, your successes at school. It's a time for you guys to just connect. Um, and to vent about outside problems. So we can talk about problems, but not the problems that exist between each other, the problems that we face in the outside world, right? This is the time for us to listen to our partner in all of their emotions, to listen to their sadness, to their anger, to their fears. This really does help build trust between us. It helps the marital relationship grow and trusting each other when we can hold a safe space to express our emotion, right? When we allow our partners to show up genuinely as who they are in that moment, we are building trust. We become a safe space for them. Um, yes. So take turns focusing on each other and show interest, right? Some of us like to talk a lot. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty. We love to talk. We're chatterboxes. Um, but but in these moments, we have to take turns to talk and to listen. And we have to show genuine interest, guys. You can't just pretend and nod your head, right? You have to show genuine interest in your partner, in what they have to say. This is not a time to try to fix our partner or offer advice. This one is, again, this one can be a little hard for me because I am a therapist. And so when I'm hearing my husband, sometimes I'm hearing things that are not being said, and I'm like reading in between the lines, and I'm like, um, asking open-ended questions and kind of like, guided questions because I'm very curious, and I kind of know where this is going, and I want to offer some advice. I want to offer some solutions. And I have to remember that he's not asking for that. He just needs to talk, and he just needs to connect. And so I hold my peace. Um, and and sometimes I never offer advice for those things because he never asked me for it. He never asked me for my advice. And, sometimes men fall into this trap very quickly because they're fixers and they're doers, right? They're providers. And so your wife brings to you a situation and you want to fix it right away. Don't fix it, gentlemen. It's not, usually doesn't really go well. I'm trying to fix it. Doesn't always land well. Um, so just create a safe space where your partner can express who they are, um, and really develop this kind of idea of like us against the world attitude, right? Be an ally to your partner. Take their side. Take their side. Don't highlight the ways in that they could have done it wrong. And this is different than, we're not like co-signing, on narcissistic behavior. We're not like reinforcing pathology and like maladaptive behavior. We're not doing any of that. That's a different conversation for another day. But mostly if your partner just wants to check in, just be on their side. Just be a good friend. Finally, on this one, validate how they feel, be empathic. And one of the things that we can do here is, like I said, ask open-ended questions, help them name the feeling, right? And use reflective statements. I'm hearing this and this and that. It sounds like this is frustrating. I understand how this will be upsetting. I hear you. Just validate what they're feeling. Let them know that you understand what they're going through, and show empathy, right? Um, and empathy is not the same as apathy. Like, it's not a saying, well, better you than I. It's really just kind of being in that emotion with them. Now, one of the things that also makes it difficult to turn towards your partner is not being able to cope with your partner's sadness, fear, or anger, right? And this can happen for many reasons, but um, sometimes listening to our partner express a negative emotion, even when it's not towards us, even when it has nothing to do with us, it can be very stressful, and it can be I kind of bring stuff up on like your own stuff up, and you may feel like dysregulated, you may feel a little anxious, you may feel a little overwhelmed just to see them in that space. And so, this is you, or someone like that. I would highly emphasize and recommend that you go back to your Gottman book and you read pages 103 to 107. It gives you some good advice on how to handle those portions of a conversation and how for you to be well when this occurs. So your discomfort is actually a form of you turning away from your partner. Um, and this is an area this is an opportunity for growth, as I've discussed before. This is an area, it's not a weakness, it's an opportunity for you to develop some new skills. Um, and it's often rooted in our childhood. Sometimes family weren't supportive when we were having really intense emotions, and so we didn't learn um, how to manage them. We didn't learn how to handle them. We didn't learn how to be supportive of another person because nobody has ever been supportive of us, and when we're going through a very hard emotion, and so when families are not very good at managing emotions, this kind of teaches us to compartmentalize, and what that means is like separating ourselves and avoiding our feelings, right? Like I present one way in the home, I present one way at work, I present one way at school, I present one way with my friends, and so we become like um, we kind of like put ourselves in little boxes. Um, so this is something that it has more to do with us really than with our partner and what they're going through. And so we if our desire is to be present, then this is something that we might want to look at a little bit closer for ourselves. The final principle that we're going to discuss for this week is principle 4, and it is letting your partner influence you. And it sounds so simple, right? But it can be very hard. So, by true partners, to be a partner is to really have an influence in each other and in our decision making process. Um, this is being respectful and considerate of our spouse's feelings and opinions, especially when we disagree. It's easy to respect and consider my husband's opinions when I agree with him. Right? The hard part is when I don't agree with what he's saying, what he's feeling, but at the same time, I still need to be just as respectful and just as considerate. Um, Men who accept wives' influences have a happier marriage, right? Happy wife, happy life. Just kidding. But studies do show that they have a lower divorce rate. Um, and wives in such marriages are less likely to use harsh startups during a conversation. Um, what does that mean? So sometimes, and we see culture here, and we see religion here too. Sometimes we we may have an understanding that the woman is inferior to the man. Even the man may feel that way, and then invalidate his wife's opinions or not ask for them at all. Um, and there may be some cultural pieces to that. And then, the word says submit unto your husband, right? And what does that mean? And what does that look like? And so if you are a couple that interprets that as in like the man is the boss and the woman may not speak or the woman's opinion does not count, then this is going to be a little hard principle for you to really digest, right? Um, but the truth is that when a woman feels validated in a marriage, when there is conflict or discussion, the woman will know that she's validated She feels that she has an important place in this relationship, and she will be less likely to be harsh or rude, right? Or loud, right? She'll present in a much calmer and nicer way because she feels loved and honored and respected here. Some of the questionnaires that help us with this area of our lives is accepting influence questionnaire, a small little exercise called Yield to Win, and the Gottman Island Survival Game. So I highly recommend that you take a look at those questionnaires, that you do them with your partners, and that you share them with all of your friends. Look at you guys, you have so many resources now. Finally, we are going to look at our discussion question for this week. Again, your discussion board is really the most meaningful way that I can interact with you guys. And I'm enjoying all of you so much so far. So please, please participate in the discussion boards. It's good for you, and it's a way for us to connect with each other. So your discussion question is designed into two pieces again. And it is, what are your most important marriage relationship goals? Maybe you're married, maybe you're not. But even if you're not married, you should be thinking about what marriage is going to look for you in the future. Um, and then what do you need to be doing now in order to reach these goals, right? So preparation is key. You're doing like the backward, right? You're preparing in the season for what is to come. And I want you to be specific. I want you to connect your responses with this week's topics, the lectures, the readings, and the videos, so we can have a more intellectual discussion, for lack of a better word, and you can connect your knowledge with your peers. Again, please participate with your initial post and then respond to two other students, and have your answers between 250 to 300 words. Gives us a better cohesiveness and flow to our conversation. Best of luck, guys. I hope you have a lot of fun. And if you need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay?